Haley campaign. I want to bring in now our panel to break down what we're seeing right now in South Carolina. Plenty to talk about. Joined in studio by Democratic strategist Jaime Moore and joined remotely by Rena Shaw, political strategist and former Republican advisor. Rena, I'd love to start with you. Projections showing Donald Trump, and again, this isn't a surprise, is going to win in South Carolina. What do the results so far tell you about this race?
These results out of South Carolina right now are rather unsurprising to me. I'll be waiting to obviously see what the end result is, and we will want to split hairs to see where exactly the votes landed up. Now, of course, 50 delegates are on the line here tonight, and I know Trump would like to take home all 50 of those, but that is just not how this primary is structured. 29 will go to him, of course, but then you have to see how the votes are split across many congressional districts. And look, Nikki Haley went into today's primary not having much support of the South Carolina political establishment. She has oftentimes said that she didn't need it, but this is a very different race, of course, than when she ran for governor and won. And I think in some ways, we have to see this very much on its face for what it is. Yet another primary loss that would have been nice to have, but does not indicate the seismic shift in the race that so many people are saying that tonight is. That shift will come when the mathematics have to be on her side on Super Tuesday. So let's see what she has to say tonight. I think if her tone is still attacking Trump, we can expect her to stay in this for the long run. But again, tonight's results to me are unsurprising. She will go on to live another day.
We're monitoring that party, that watch party there in South Carolina. You can see that on your screen. The crowd actually looking to be in a pretty good mood there, you know, and Jaime, we're monitoring the early results. And again, this just coming in, it's only been about an hour since the polls closed. 58% now to Donald Trump and about 41% of the vote going to Nikki Haley. If that margin were to stand, and again, we'll have to wait to see for the final results, would that actually be an encouraging result for Nikki Haley?
Well, I think that Donald Trump would not have done as well as he thought he would have done. I think that's going to be a reality that he's going to have to contend with. And I think Governor Haley knew she was not going to win this race. She was not going in to win. She wants to cut through the numbers of Donald Trump, and she wants to prove that she can still be viable next week, the week after next, on a Super Tuesday. And if these numbers are closer, like they were in New Hampshire, as Rena mentioned, I think she does have, I think she has a reason to stay in for another day.
Interesting. Now, Rena, that's the margin right now. We'll see where this goes. And of course, South Carolina, one of these states where Democrats, if they so choose, can vote in the Republican primary, independents also. Are there states going ahead now that Nikki Haley can still make the case, hey, look, there's Super Tuesday coming up where she might fare okay, or was this really the last stop on the campaign trail where she hoped she might be able to overperform?
Oh, this couldn't have been the last stop. For weeks now, her team has known that she could maybe come close within striking distance of Trump. And I've always said that the delta cannot be very vast here because if it were, and it's not looking that way, look, you know, again, this is a situation in which Trump should have fared much better, but we don't have much reporting as yet. So we have to be careful at this point. I think about 22% are estimated reporting. This is a situation where we just cannot take the bait. This is not humiliating. If the delta were vast, that would be a repudiation of her candidacy, and it is not. We have to understand what Nikki Haley stands for also. She is the only person who stands between Donald Trump and the White House. His team has gotten very, very uncomfortable in talking about her because they realize that what they have to do is speak lies. In just the opener of this segment, we heard him say that he fixed the border. The border has not been fixed by him, and Republicans know that. Good Republicans know that the border crisis was not created by Biden. It's not been handled well by Biden, I must add, and I do very much worry about that. But Trump never finished building that wall. And so this is, again, an election which will be all about turnout. And so far, when you looked at Iowa, New Hampshire, and I'm not counting Nevada because Haley and Trump did not compete there. That was a caucus and a primary, and Haley chose not to compete there. So this is the third state that she's won. But again, it's a situation in which the math is still very much doable. It can be on her side, but we're not there yet.
Jaime, let's pick up on that issue of immigration. It's interesting to see in some of these exit polls in South Carolina, 4 out of 10 voters listing immigration as their top issue. Of course, this is a state that's really nowhere near the U.S.-Mexico border. Do you anticipate that immigration will be the key issue going ahead to these next states on the Republican calendar, and then also towards November for a likely matchup of Trump and Biden?
Carl, I think this is going to be an issue for the remainder of the year, to be quite frank. The Republicans will contend with this in their primary next week and on to Super Tuesday. But this is a general election issue. As Rena mentioned, President Trump did not do what he said he did. And President Biden believes that he's done as much as he can and he wants to do more. And so this is going to be one of those things that voters will have to really look at the record of both the current president and the former president and decide if, what makes the most sense for Americans. This is going to be a really important issue. Not the most important issue, I do not believe, but it will be a top issue.
Rena, Nikki Haley, all along the campaign trail, and especially in South Carolina, she's been saying that she doesn't believe that Donald Trump can win in a general election rematch with Joe Biden. It doesn't seem as if that issue or that statement from her may be resonating with these primary voters, but is that something that you think Donald Trump will be paying attention to and try to combat that statement? Or is that even something you might agree with, that he might struggle in a general election?
I think former President Trump will absolutely struggle when it comes to November, but anything can happen between then and now. As we know, this is that kind of election. We are in uncharted territory when it comes to how we are looking at the former president, how he's standing for re-election under such complicated charges. He's under indictment across three states in the District of Columbia, so 4 jurisdictions. 90-some counts of criminal wrongdoing are up against him, but he's not yet had a conviction, and a conviction could come down on him by summertime, before November, in at least 2 cases. We can at least say that much. So that very much opens the door for somebody else. So I think Trump's messaging right now is, again, to say to the most fervent, ardent supporter of his, I'm your guy. You liked my administration's output. Trust me, again, I'm better than Biden. And most people forget that he's just 3 years Biden's junior, because he comes out in such a way in which you almost sometimes forget that time has touched him and that he lost in 2020. So he's really banking again on that real support that remains within the right wing for him, that love for his administration's policies. Nikki Haley's entry point is a multitude of things. She messages well on abortion. She does well in hypothetical matchups, not just up against Biden, but against other Democrats as well, because she is seen as more moderate. And look, we are careening towards what does seem like inevitably another Biden-Trump rematch, but the entryway for Nikki Haley is still very much there because the delegate math is still doable.
We are still awaiting a potential speech now from Nikki Haley. You can see there on your screen the scene there in Charleston, South Carolina. But Rena, I want to ask you, because you mentioned abortion, we saw this issue coming up this week in terms of reproductive rights, and both candidates, both Trump and Nikki Haley, had to respond to the Supreme Court decision in Alabama, which ruled that embryos can be considered children. I saw you mention on your Twitter account, you said that it makes your heart and stomach churn. This is already upending IVF treatment. What do you think, though, this will do to the campaign going forward? Could this throw really a wrench into these election and this campaign?
Well, this is a moment where I have to take off the hat of political analyst and put one on of just being a regular, everyday American citizen, a mother of 3. I am of childbearing age, as are millions of other American women who are completely aghast by what the Republican Party has done. And look, I've been a lifelong registered member of the party, and I have always been anti-abortion for myself, but pro-choice for other women. What I'm seeing right now is folks in Alabama, their Supreme Court, saying we are okay with an unelected bureaucrat getting between you and your doctor in that exam room, getting involved in a decision that should, again, be between a woman and her doctor. The issue of frozen embryos is so difficult to talk about because millions of women face fertility issues every year. In vitro fertilization is a modern assisted reproductive technology that benefits so many American families. When I came up on Capitol Hill as a senior Republican aide, that was our talking point, that we were there to strengthen the American family. What the Alabama Supreme Court is doing is not recognizing the separation of church and state. I don't believe they're interpreting law here. I believe they're trying to essentially govern with what they think is public opinion. And it's all very bad for Republicans at the end of the day. This is not good. It doesn't poll well. It touches many American women. And just in Alabama in 2021, for example, the CDC estimated there were approximately 400 some live birth deliveries that resulted because 900 some embryos had been successfully resulting in those live births. So this is, again, a frozen embryo issue is not this far and away thing. It is a thing that is impacting the lives of millions of American women that I don't think will forgive the Republican Party for going so far in the aftermath of the overturn of Roe versus Wade.
And Jaime, I just want to quickly get your thoughts as well from the Democratic angle about reproductive rights. How will this issue affect this general election?
Yeah, this is not a winning issue for Republicans. And we've seen this time and time again over the past few elections. They've just not won on that. And President Biden and Vice President Harris have talked about this week extensively. They believe this is a matter of choice and freedom. And so this election, in addition to immigration and abortion, the president would like to talk about democracy, choice, and freedom. And so they're going to drive that message home as much as possible over the next few weeks and few months. They believe that women in this country should choose whether they want to grow their families or not. And that's going to be an issue that's going to be top of mind, just like immigration, just like Ukraine and Israel. Abortion is going to be a really, really important issue in this election.
Jaime Moore, Democratic strategist, principal at Cornerstone Government Affairs. Rena Shaw joining us tonight as well, political strategist, former Republican advisor. Thank you so much to you both. We'll have to leave it there. Plenty more, though, to discuss later on tonight. Thanks once again for your insights.
Thank you.